Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh Zachariah said, the last door, some people keep leaving it open.
Okay, so what you gonna do about it? Go lock the door, boy.
It was already locked. Well, they locked. I just locked.
Okay.
And when you finish, y'all come over here. After you lock the door.
What is that all about?
طيب. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmeen amma ba'du. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us what is beneficial for us and to help us to understand His book and to guide us with it and to place us all on the right path, that there's no crookedness, and enter us all into Jannah. Ameen. Inshallah, we'll begin, inshallah, with our tafseer class. And this is not a very in-depth tafseer class in my view, inshallah, but it is intended to bring about some awareness of the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in particular, with this series, inshallah, we'll be covering the last three juz, the last three ajza of the Quran. And these are with also the hope that not only that we study them and understand their meanings, but if we have the ability to, also to memorize these surah. These are very beneficial surah in our life that we could benefit, and very beneficial in da'wah, in calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are a lot of benefit with those surahs, and we just want to have just some clarification for ourselves, because that's always the intent, that we want to first uplift ourselves, change our own condition, that our condition is in line with what Allah is pleased with, and that we remove whatever that is within us, within our chest, within our soul, within our heart, within our mind, our intellect, whatever is poisonous and corrupt and toxic, which keeps us away from the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we say that because many things that, alhamdulillah, Allah has guided us to Islam and blessed us to Islam. We are chosen to be Muslims, and we declare that, and we try our best. We want to be sincere believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it is without any doubt and of common sense that we are somewhat products of our societies, products of our environments. So even though we have consciously chosen to be Muslims in an environment that is opposite of that, but it does not mean that we are totally cleansed and purified of thought. Because we spend, especially for those of us that spend so many years, right, in being taught a certain way by certain people, right? So if you're being taught by a person who does not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have already embarked upon a path of misguidance. No matter how good of a person they were, we're not, we're not going into the character of the individual. Were they good, upright people, right? Whether it's from our parents, our grandparents, aunts, uncles, our teachers, coaches, or whatever experiences we've had, right? They may have been good people, but they had a way of thought themselves, because they were also products of what? Their environment. Okay? Those who are educated in the universities, right? That's a whole nother level, right, of thought. And the universities, right, it encourages you to have open thoughts. Right. You take classes that supposedly help you teach you to think, right? And some of these classes, they have an origin which is shirk. Their origin is shirk. They are people of shirk. And we're saying that a lot of these things, and especially we know it's famous on college campuses, and this, I don't know if it has anything to do with this or not, but it just came to my mind, where it makes no sense to me of people pledging Greek.
Thank you. I've been saying that for years.
Why do people want to pledge Greek?
And you
right?
do not have no Greek ancestry.
Exactly. So this is, and what is that? That's mean your thought is controlled.
Right.
They've made you think that this is something honorable to do. This is something that is beneficial to you in your life.
Right.
And maybe there might be some dunya benefits for that, right? Maybe there may be. But if you think about it, what's the point of that, right? And so this thought goes so far back to even the time during the Muslims when they started to reach and be in those lands of the Greek. And this is when we talk about our subject, what we're here for, tafseer al-Quran, this is when things became infected. The poison started to slip in because you have these new people accepted Islam and not really knowing the foundation, and they started to include this Greek thought into trying to understand the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is a huge error, a huge wrong. So one of the books that I encourage everyone to get, alhamdulillah, and a book is available, alhamdulillah, in the English language. To buy this book, to purchase this book, is called Muqaddima fi usul tafseer. Muqaddima fi usul tafseer. So it's the introduction to the usul, the principles of a tafseer. So I'll write that down, inshallah. Okay, so Muqaddima fi usul tafsir. So it's a very small book, this one right here, and this one is from one of the scholars of Islam, not just a small scholar, but a major scholar of Islam, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah. So if you know anything about Islam, no one does not know the name of Ibn Taymiyyah if you study this religion. So he prepared this small introduction for people who wanted to have knowledge of it. So we're going to read just a few points from here so that we can also just get just the beginning taste of what is tafsir. What is the tafsir of the Quran? And so we're, like I said, we're not going to go into detail because that's not what we're doing. We're not going to read the book or go through the whole book, explain the book, anything of that nature. I'm just going to go over this little small introductory piece, and I encourage you to purchase the book yourself if you want to see what it looks like. Okay, so it's a very thin book. All right, so we're just going to go over this, and I encourage you to purchase the book, to read the book, so you can just have an understanding of what tafsir is and how important it is, and how there are various different types of tafsir, and what are the approaches to tafsir. How do you make tafsir? Can anyone today just come and just open the Quran and start to explain away what it means? No. All right. Perhaps they may get some things right, but this is not the process. They might get some things right, but most likely, they're going to go astray, and they're going to lead others astray by that, because you're coming from your own rationale, having no knowledge, trying to gain a deeper understanding of this, and you could be misguided. Whether you have to be guided by what? First, knowing the book of Allah, understand the Quran. And we say that what is simply understood is understood, and it's very easy and clear. But to try to go into this deeper meanings of things, you keep it to yourself. You keep it to yourself unless you have the qualifications of doing so. And it's first, do you know the Quran in and of itself? Right? So it takes a great deal of effort to just even begin to do that. So a person who does not even really know the Quran, have never completed the Quran, memorized the Quran, and then they just start teaching the Quran. No. Right? They have no knowledge of hadith. They have no knowledge of what's called abrogation, and then what was abrogated, and what was abrogated, and what was abrogated, and what was abrogated. They have no knowledge of any of these things. They have no knowledge of hadith, asbab al-nuzul, the purpose behind the revelation of this, but they just want to start talking about that. So this is not a thing that we do, and unfortunately we have had this type of thing. I've witnessed it in my small lifetime here in the United States, right? And it's not a new thing because it's happened for a long time. We say it goes back a long way. It goes back a very long way that people have tried to do this, but alhamdulillah, Allah has protected this religion, protected it, and always had people defending the religion of Islam and combating these poisonous and toxic thoughts. But it has still spread amongst the common people, amongst the general people, and you have people that they still start to spread this, but we still have people that try to combat it as well. And we refer you to those scholars of Islam who have that knowledge far and above anywhere from where I may be. So this we'll begin, inshallah, reading just some of this. And like every book, there's information that you have to look at from the very beginning. Do not skip over what's called the introductory, the preface. Read everything. Who is the person that's wrote the book, right? Who are they? What type of individual they are? You need to know everything. But we're going to just mention a few things about in this small little book what will be covered in this book. And one of the things we'll talk about what type of tafseer there are. So, what type of ways you make tafsir? So number one, and this is taken from the book of Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, is that he says in here that how you make tafsir or explanation of the Quran is by the Quran itself. That's number one. That the Quran explains the Quran. This is the first. This could be what we consider the highest. The Quran explains itself. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may reveal the ayat that may allude to certain things, but then he'll bring another ayat, clarifying it even in detail. So you use that as a way of the Quran itself by explaining the rest of the Quran. The second one, which we should have, who would think, what would be the second way? The first would say the Quran, by the Quran. What would be the second way? Hadith. A hadith. So the ahadith, the narration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which makes total sense because he is what? The one who the Quran was sent to. His duty, his job, his responsibility, what? Teach us the Quran. He lived the Quran. So we're going to learn from what did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say about this verse. So when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says something about a verse, do we need to look further? No.
No, indeed.
It's not for me to look further. It's not for me to come up with some other rationale behind this verse and this meaning and explain. No, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said this. Right? Allah said this, or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. So this is number two. So the second way is by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he was commanded not only to communicate the Quran to us, but to explain their meaning to us. And of course, he did this by the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third approach will be, man, who knows? First, Quran by Quran. Second, a hadith by Quran. Okay, we can say we can say scholars, but I don't want to say the word scholar because that.
The next generations.
The caliphs.
Okay, the question is, we have number one way of explaining the Quran is by the Quran itself. Number two, explain the Quran by a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number three, the companions. Okay, so that's why I didn't want to take the word scholars, because yes, there was the companions were the scholars, right? But there were also scholars that came after companions, right? So I didn't want to use that word scholars, right? So the companions. And we know especially those who were with the Prophet, the most. The ones who spent significant amount of time with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The one who spent years with the Prophet. They accompanied the Prophet. They lived with him. They were in his home. They ate with him. They slept with him. They fought with him. So they were with him throughout all those situations when revelation was coming down. So it was because of the actions and statements that many of them made that verses came down. So they would be first and foremost to know because they were there. They watched as the revelation was coming to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They witnessed it with their own eyes. And when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited to them the verses if they did not understand, they would ask, what does that mean? So they are first to understand the Quran better than anyone else. So if I later come along or such and such and such and say I know better than them, then something's wrong with my mind. Right. Something's wrong with me. This person was there, eyewitnesses, but I know more information than they know. That can never be accepted. That can never be accepted. The eyewitness, versus the one that heard from somebody, or just picked it up and read it in the newspaper or saw it on the news. He knows more information than the eyewitness? No.
Things change in minutes. Going around the corner, it could change
Exactly.
from this color to that color.
Exactly. So the companions, radiallahu anhum, they are the third source because they were more knowledgeable in regard to the Quran because of their close association with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, we look at those from the people like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, who was with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for how long? How long? Through the period of revelation.
Long time.
What's a long time? How long? 23 years. From the whole time of the prophethood. From beginning to what? End. Ali radiallahu anhu. Right? Uthman. How long? A very long time. He was also there for. He's from those beginning people. Umar, accepting Islam early years. They're the first people to know. They're the first people to know. And then the likes of those other young companions that came later, like Ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, radiallahu anhuma, who the Prophet ﷺ said these are our scholars. Made dua for them. So that is the third category. So we have how many so far? 3. What are they again? Quran by Quran, Hadith by Quran, the companions. So then we look at the next. What is the fourth way? What is the fourth way that we can look for? What could be an acceptable way of making tafseer? We don't want to use that word. Because there are ulama from amongst the companions. There are ulama that are alive today. So we don't want to use that word ulama. Right? Not now anyway. Okay? So if we say ulama, we have to be specified when we say ulama. Okay? Do we say ulama of our times or this another time period? What?
You mean the following generations that have the companions?
Exactly. The tabi'in. The tabi'in. Because they learned from who? The companions. Does that not make more sense? They learned from the companions. Right? So they had that direct connection, with the people who had that direct connection. And then next would be, or along with them we say, the atba' tabi'in. The people who came after the tabi'in. So they're students. And we want to stop right there. Why? One reason, because of the statement of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Khairu qarni thumma alladhina yalunhum thumma alladhina yalunhum." The best of generations, the best are my generation, me and the companions, thumma alladhina yalunhum, then those who come after the tabi'in, thumma alladhina yalunhum. He stopped there. That's number one. These are the best people, the best generations. He could have kept going and kept going. He could have used other words to express those that even come after that. He could have used that, but he stopped there to clarify that. And then we also, if we look at history, as Islam expanded and got into those other areas, that's where the corruption started to begin. When the people started to be influenced by the Greek and other than that, and other lands, when it got very far, Islam started spreading far. So it's like you could almost kind of just bet on the closer you are to the center of Islam, the what? Stronger. Huh? The stronghold of the knowledge and the people, right? And the further you get away, huh?
The further it gets.
Right? It may start to get weaker. The people are further away. The knowledge, is further away, right? Because you have the people in the center. And the further you get away, the weaker it can get. The weaker it can get. So you always want to tie yourself to what? The source. Let me get to the source of it, the root of the matter, as they say, right? Let me get to the root of it. So, and history tells us and shows us because of those issues, and also because of the politics and all those different things that started to overcome and take the people and influence their way of thought and understanding and the way that they tried to practice this religion. And of course, if they tried to bring in their own opinions about this Quran. So then Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, it says, is perfectly aware, this is in the Muqaddimah, that if one follows the Salaf, the people who preceded us, and we're talking what? And because he's talking, and if he's talking, who preceded him? So we're not talking about him. We're not talking about those who came after him. He's talking about those who what? Preceded him. If one will come across the difference between them, but these differences are not real, as he puts it, are differences of variation to nowhere. So this type versus that type. So it's not a real difference. And he gave an example, for example, how people, an expression. And he gave an example of, for example, if one says, or if they characterize as-sirat al-mustaqim. Wa alaikum salam. So as-sirat al-mustaqim meaning what? The straight path. Some may say the straight path is what? Al-Quran. Al-Quran and Sunnah. Some may say it Islam. Is there a difference? No. Right? One may classify as-sirat al-mustaqim as what? The Quran. This is straight path. One may say as-sirat al-mustaqim means Islam. Can you say that this is wrong? Either one is wrong? Will you? What do you think? No. Because the Quran, no doubt, we're not going to argue that this is the straight path. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on to that stronghold of Allah, which is the rope, the Quran. وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Do not be divided. So we have proofs about that. And then Islam is what? The Quran and the Sunnah. The Quran and the Sunnah, right? So just in expressions. So you can't say, okay, he differed because he said this, he differed, but really the result is the same thing. There's no difference. Okay? And then he went and talked about other type of differences in how people may illustrate things. For example, we'll come to this after the prayer because the adhan is in. But turn to your Quran, Surah 35, verse 32. And this is what we're going to start with after the prayer, inshallah. Okay? Jazakumullahu khairan. Hada wa sallu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmeen. We'll call that done.